Commander Vex the Hull stood on the command bridge of the Zorn flagship Inevitable Victory, his forearms crossed in various poses of satisfaction. His scales gleamed under the artificial lighting as he gazed at the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. "So this is Earth," he said, his voice a gravelly purr. "Doesn't look like much." Lieutenant Krilzax, his second-in-command, consulted a datapad. "According to our scans, the dominant species has only achieved rudimentary space travel. They haven't even colonized their own moon on a permanent basis." "Pathetic," Vex the Hull snorted, mandibles clicking in amusement. "And their weaponry? Primarily chemical projectiles and basic energy weapons. Nothing that could penetrate our shields," Krilzax reported with a dismissive flick of his tail. "They appear to communicate using primitive radio waves and something called internet." Vex the Hull's upper lip curled in a smile that displayed rows of needle-like teeth. "The High Command will be pleased. This conquest should take approximately 1 standard rotation. Maybe 2 if they're stubborn." The bridge crew chittered in agreement, already anticipating the promotions and medals that would follow such an easy victory. The Zorn Armada had subjugated 17 worlds in the past cycle, but Earth would be their first foray into this particular spiral arm of the galaxy. "Prepare the first wave," Vex the Hull ordered, sinking into his command chair. "Standard protocol. 1 battalion should suffice for initial contact and subjugation." Krilzax hesitated. "Should we not conduct more thorough reconnaissance, Commander?" "The High Command protocol suggests." "The High Command isn't here," Vex the Hull interrupted, waving 2 of his arms dismissively. "And I didn't become the youngest fleet commander by wasting time on excessive caution. These humans will be begging for mercy before their next solar rotation." Krilzax bowed submissively. "As you command." "Deploying first wave to coordinates in the region they call Nebraska. It appears largely uninhabited." "Perfect," Vex the Hull purred. "Let's give these humans a proper introduction to their new overlords." As the landing craft descended toward Earth's atmosphere, Vex the Hull couldn't help but imagine how this conquest would look in the historical archives. Perhaps they would name a holiday after him. Vex the Hull Day had a nice ring to it. Little did he know that the Zorn Armada's carefully laid plans were about to collide with humanity's most underestimated resource: pure dumb luck and the inexplicable human ability to turn any situation into a complete disaster for everyone involved. Especially for those who thought conquering Earth would be easy. Lieutenant Jack Murphy was having a terrible day even before the aliens showed up. "Remind me again why we're doing land navigation exercises in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska," he grumbled, squinting at his map while swatting at a mosquito. The summer heat was oppressive, making his uniform stick to his skin in all the wrong places. Corporal Danny Rodriguez grinned at him, somehow looking fresh despite the circumstances. "Because the colonel said," and I quote, Murphy couldn't find his way out of a paper bag with GPS and a tour guide. Private First Class Tommy Glitch Wilson snickered as he fiddled with their radio equipment. "To be fair, sir, you did lead us into that swamp during the last exercise." "It was a tactical detour," Murphy insisted, folding the map with unnecessary force. "And this 5-person scout unit is the sorriest excuse for a reconnaissance team I've ever seen." Sergeant Ben Cooper, the team's veteran, looked up from cleaning his rifle. "Could be worse, LT. We could be stuck in that sexual harassment prevention PowerPoint marathon back at base." The 5th member of their team, Specialist Mei Zhang, lowered her binoculars. "Guys, you might want to see this," she said quietly. "Please tell me it's an ice cream truck." Murphy sighed, trudging over. "Not unless ice cream trucks now fall from the sky and look like giant metal scorpions," Zhang replied, handing him the binoculars. Murphy's jaw dropped as he focused on the distant field. What looked like sleek, metallic craft were touching down, their design unlike anything he'd ever seen. Ramps extended from their hulls, and figures, definitely not human, were emerging. "Holy she. Are those?" Rodriguez couldn't finish the sentence. "Aliens," Cooper confirmed, his usual stoic expression cracking slightly. "Actual freaking aliens." Glitch was frantically adjusting dials on their radio. "I can't reach base. There's some kind of interference." Murphy took a deep breath. 4 years at West Point and 6 years of active duty had never prepared him for this scenario. "Okay team, listen up. Until we can establish comms, we're the only ones who know about this. Standard reconnaissance protocol. We observe, we document, we do not engage." Of course, that was the exact moment Private Wilson tripped over a root and tumbled down the small hill they were using as cover, landing with a yelp directly in view of the alien patrol. For a moment, everything was still. The strange 4-armed creatures turned their elongated heads toward the disheveled human scrambling to his feet. Then, with startling speed, they raised weapons that pulsed with an ominous blue light. "So much for not engaging," Cooper muttered, already bringing his rifle to bear. "Orders, LT." Murphy's mind raced through their limited options. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an unknown enemy with unknown capabilities. By all conventional military wisdom, they should retreat and report. But when the first alien fired, vaporizing a tree 2 feet from Glitch's head, conventional wisdom took a back seat to survival instinct. Rodriguez, covering fire, Cooper flanking maneuver. Zhang, get Glitch and fall back to the ridge. Murphy barked, muscle memory from countless drills kicking in. What followed would later be described in classified military reports as an improbable sequence of events that defied statistical analysis. Rodriguez's covering fire struck an alien weapon pack, causing a chain reaction that disabled 3 of the invaders' weapon systems. Cooper's flanking maneuver accidentally triggered one of their own devices, creating a localized electromagnetic pulse that scrambled the aliens' communications. And Zhang, in her haste to pull Glitch to safety, dislodged a boulder that rolled downhill, knocking over an important-looking piece of alien equipment. Within minutes, the small alien patrol was in disarray, retreating to their landing craft amid a cacophony of clicks and guttural shrieking. Murphy stared in disbelief at the chaos they'd somehow created. "Did we just win?" "I think survived is the more accurate term," Cooper replied, reloading his rifle. Glitch was wide-eyed with excitement. "They're actual aliens, like from space, and they're probably calling for reinforcements right now," Zhang pointed out pragmatically. "We need to move." Murphy nodded, his training finally catching up with the situation. "Zhang's right. Grab their tech if you can, but be careful. We need to find a way to warn the rest of the planet that we've got unfriendly visitors." As they gathered what alien equipment they could safely carry, none of them realized that their small skirmish had just been reported back to an increasingly irritated Commander Vextel as unexpected resistance from Earth's military forces. The misunderstanding of the century had officially begun. Commander Vextel was not having a good day. "What do you mean, repelled?" he hissed, all 4 hands clenching into fists. It was a standard patrol unit against primitive natives. The holographic image of squad leader Trazicon flickered as the nervous officer reported from the surface. "The humans employed unexpected tactics, Commander. He appeared to have intimate knowledge of our shield harmonics and communication frequencies." Vextel's eyes narrowed to slits. "That's impossible. They couldn't possibly." "They also seemed to anticipate our tactical formations," Trazicon continued, antenna drooping in shame. 3 warriors injured, 2 with severe electromagnetic disruption to their neural implants. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, the atmosphere had shifted from smug anticipation to tense confusion. Lieutenant Krilzax cautiously approached his superior. "Commander, perhaps the human military is more resourceful than our initial scans suggested." Vextel whirled on his second-in-command. "Are you suggesting our intelligence division is incompetent, Lieutenant?" "No, Commander. Merely that, well, appearances can be deceiving." "Indeed they can," Vextel growled, stalking toward the tactical display. "And I will not be deceived by a bunch of primitive apes playing soldier. Deploy the 6th Talon Division." The bridge fell silent. Even Krilzax looked alarmed. "Elite forces, Commander. For a simple subjugation, these humans have somehow repelled our standard forces." Vextel snapped. "I will not report failure to the High Command. Deploy the 6th Talon with full combat loadout and War Priest Drezimor to coordinate." Meanwhile, Murphy and his team had retreated to an abandoned farm silo, which now served as their makeshift headquarters. Their collected alien technology was spread across a rickety wooden table. "Any luck with the comms, Glitch?" Murphy asked, peering over the private's shoulder. Wilson shook his head, prodding at the alien device with a screwdriver. "Their tech is weird. It's like it's partially biological. Every time I think I've got it figured out, it reconfigures." Rodriguez was keeping watch through a crack in the wooden boards. "I still don't understand how we managed to fight them off. My shots shouldn't have done that much damage." "Dumb luck," Cooper said flatly, cleaning his rifle for the 3rd time. "Hit something important we couldn't see. Won't happen again if they come back in force." Zhang returned from her perimeter check, slightly out of breath. "Speaking of which, we've got company. Big company. Multiple aircraft, if you can call them that. Setting down about 2 clicks east. They look angry." Murphy grimaced. "Did you see how many?" "At least 30, maybe more. Different armor than the first group." "More, elaborate." Cooper peered through his scope out the window. "Elite forces," he muttered. "They're taking us seriously now." "But why?" Murphy wondered aloud. We're just a recon unit that got lucky. Glitch suddenly let out a whoop of triumph. I got something. Their communication system. I think I've tapped into it. They all gathered around as the alien device emitted bursts of strange clicking sounds interspersed with something resembling language. Human military forces. Unexpected resistance. Deploy containment grid. Priority target acquisition. They think we're what? Rodriguez exclaimed. The actual military. Like the whole thing. Seems that way, Murphy said slowly. A plan forming. And that's exactly what will let them keep thinking. Cooper gave him a skeptical look. 5 of us against whatever those things are. That's suicide, LT. Not if we fight smart, Murphy replied. They have no idea what they're dealing with. And neither do we, frankly. But we have one advantage. Which is? Zhang asked. Murphy grinned. They think we know what we're doing. Over the next few hours, Murphy's team executed what would later be described in unofficial military circles as the most ridiculous guerrilla campaign in the history of warfare. They set tripwires using fishing line found in the farmhouse. They crafted dummy explosives from fertilizer bags filled with harmless soil. They recorded their own voices on Glitch's smartphone and placed it in strategic locations to simulate a larger force. When the elite Sorn warriors arrived, resplendent in their ceremonial battle armor, and wielding weapons that could level small buildings, they found themselves falling prey to pranks that would have made elementary school students proud. War Priest Drezimor, spiritual leader of the 6th Talon and veteran of 17 planetary conquests, stepped directly into a pig trough concealed by leaves, then triggered a cascade of rusty farm equipment that rained down from a carefully balanced arrangement in the barn loft. The squad of warriors that attempted to flank the farmhouse encountered Zhang's contribution, a jury-rigged sprinkler system connected to an ancient tractor's fuel tank, covering them in diesel that rendered their heat vision sensors useless. And perhaps most devastatingly, Cooper had discovered that the aliens' sophisticated neural implants were surprisingly vulnerable to the electromagnetic fields generated by repeatedly switching the ancient farmhouse's fuse box on and off. A trick he'd learned from his grandfather for fixing old televisions. By sunset, the elite Sorn force was in full retreat, leaving behind damaged equipment, wounded warriors, and the shattered dignity of War Priest Drezimor, who had somehow ended up trapped in an old chest freezer. Murphy watched them go through his binoculars, equal parts relieved and terrified. This is getting out of hand, he muttered. We need reinforcements. Hey guys. Glitch called from inside the farmhouse. Remember that alien comm device I hacked? I think they're calling in the mothership. Murphy looked up at the darkening sky, where new lights were beginning to appear. Well shit. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, Commander Vextithel was running out of expletives. These humans, he snarled, are becoming a personal insult. Krilzax, wisely, said nothing. Night had fallen over the Nebraska farmland, but sleep was a luxury Murphy's team couldn't afford. They'd relocated to an old storm cellar behind what remained of the farmhouse, which now sported several smoldering craters courtesy of alien energy weapons. We need to capture one of them, Murphy announced, spreading their crumpled map across an old washing machine. Intelligence gathering is our priority now. Cooper raised an eyebrow. With all due respect, LT, we're barely staying alive as it is. I know it sounds crazy. Everything about this situation is crazy. Rodriguez interrupted. Fighting aliens with pitchforks and WD-40 wasn't covered in basic training. Murphy continued undeterred. If we can interrogate one of them, maybe we can figure out their intentions, capabilities, weaknesses. How exactly do you plan to communicate? Zhang asked. I'm fluent in 4 languages, but alien isn't one of them. Glitch looked up from the disassembled alien device in his lap. Actually, I think I've got something here. Their neural interfaces seem to have translation capabilities. If we could get one intact, Murphy nodded. That settles it. We need a prisoner. Rodriguez snorted. Great. And how do we subdue a 7-foot 4-armed death machine without killing it? Murphy's grin was not entirely reassuring. I have a plan. The plan, as it turned out, involved the storm cellar's rusted chest freezer, half a bottle of sleeping pills dissolved in water, and Glitch's remarkably accurate impression of an injured alien warrior. Lieutenant Krilzax had been having doubts about this invasion since the first patrol reported resistance. Now, as he personally led a search party through the dark earth forest, following distress signals from a supposedly wounded comrade, those doubts had blossomed into full-blown anxiety. Spread out, maintain sensor sweeps, he ordered his squad. The signal is coming from just ahead. The distinctive sound of a Zorn warrior in distress led them to a small clearing. There, illuminated by moonlight, was an open underground chamber with what appeared to be a wounded Zorn soldier lying half-concealed at the bottom. "Commander," called one of his warriors. "Life signs detected." Krilzax approached cautiously. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't abandon a fellow warrior. "Secure the perimeter. I'll investigate." As he descended into the storm cellar, the odd sensation of danger intensified. The injured warrior looked strange somehow. And why would a Zorn soldier be emitting distress calls rather than using the comm system? His realization came too late. The figure was merely a cleverly arranged set of armor pieces. As he turned to shout a warning, something hard struck the back of his head. His last conscious thought was that Commander Vextol was going to be furious. When Krilzax awoke, his head throbbing, he found himself in the most undignified position of his military career. Stuffed inside a primitive cooling unit with only his head exposed, surrounded by 5 humans who watched him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright suspicion. "Good morning, Sunshine," said the one who appeared to be in charge. "Hope you don't mind the accommodations. We're working with limited resources here." Krilzax tested his restraints and found them surprisingly effective. His neural implant was functioning but blocked from communicating with the fleet. Most alarmingly, his ceremonial armor had been removed, leaving him in his base exoskin. "Whatever tortures you plan, human, I will not betray the Zorn Armada," he declared, trying to maintain his dignity despite being stuffed in a freezer. The leader, Murphy, he heard the others call him, looked confused. "Torture? We're not going to torture you. We just want information." "Same thing." Krilzax sniffed. "Look," Murphy said, pulling up a chair. "We're all professionals here. You're a soldier, we're soldiers. Let's cut the crap. Why are you invading our planet?" Krilzax blinked all 3 of his eyelids in surprise. "It is the natural order. The Zorn Armada conquers. That is our purpose." "And how many planets have you conquered?" asked the female human, Zhang. 17 in this cycle alone," Krilzax replied, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "Though none with military forces as unorthodox as yours." The humans exchanged puzzled glances. "Our military forces," Murphy repeated slowly. "Yes. Your tactics are unusual but effective. Most species rely on conventional warfare. Your guerrilla techniques and apparent knowledge of our systems is unprecedented." The youngest human snorted with laughter, then quickly covered it with a cough when the others glared at him. Murphy leaned forward. "Just to be clear, you think we represent Earth's military forces?" "Of course," Krilzax said. "You repelled our standard patrols and even the elite 6th Talon. No mere civilians could accomplish this." The room fell silent as the humans stared at him. Finally, Murphy spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "Lieutenant. Whatever your name is." "Krilzax. Lieutenant Krilzax. We are a 5-person reconnaissance unit that got separated from our main force during a training exercise. We're not even supposed to be here. I'm a junior officer with barely 6 years of service." Krilzax's antenna twitched in confusion. "I don't understand." "We're not Earth's military," Murphy explained patiently. "We're barely a footnote in Earth's military. We're a scout team, the human equivalent of, what would you call your smallest functional unit?" "A circuit patrol," Krilzax suggested, still confused. "Sure. We're basically a circuit patrol that got lost. The actual Earth military has millions of soldiers, tens of thousands of aircraft, naval vessels, tanks, artillery." Krilzax felt a cold sensation that had nothing to do with the freezer he was stuffed into. "That's not possible. Our intelligence indicated." "Your intelligence is wrong," Cooper stated flatly. "Dead wrong. But, the weapons you used against us." Glitch held up a standard-issue rifle. "You mean these? Just basic projectile weapons. Nothing special. And the technology that disrupted our neural implants." Rodriguez laughed. "You mean when Cooper kept flipping the circuit breaker? That was an accident. The adaptive camouflage. The shield disruption techniques." Zhang shrugged. "Mud. We covered ourselves in mud to hide our heat signatures. And we have no idea how your shields work. We just got lucky hits." Krilzax stared at them in mounting horror. "You're saying, all of this was accomplished by a lost scouting party using primitive weapons and luck?" Murphy nodded solemnly. "Pretty much, yeah. And the actual Earth military is currently mobilizing," Cooper finished grimly. "You triggered every defense system we have. Right now there are probably hundreds of nuclear missiles being aimed at your ships, fighter squadrons scrambling, and special forces preparing surgical strikes." Krilzax felt his exoskin pale to a sickly yellow. "I must contact Commander Vextol immediately." Murphy grinned. "Funny you should mention that. We were hoping you'd say that. Commander Vextel was in the middle of planning a full-scale planetary assault when Lieutenant Krilzax's transmission came through. The bridge of the inevitable victory had been transformed into a war room, with tactical displays showing deployment zones across Earth's continents. I want shock troops deployed to their major population centers simultaneously, Vextel was saying, gesturing with his upper arms while using his lower ones to manipulate the display. The psychological impact of a coordinated attack will, Commander, called the communications officer. We're receiving a transmission from Lieutenant Krilzax. Vextel's expression brightened. Finally, some good news. Put him through. The main view screen flickered to life, showing Krilzax's face. The lieutenant appeared unharmed but extremely agitated. Most concerning of all, there was a human standing right behind him. Lieutenant, are you being coerced? Vextel demanded, signaling his security team to trace the transmission. Commander, Krilzax began, his voice unusually high-pitched. I have critical intelligence about the Earth military forces. I can see you're being held captive, Vextel hissed. Do not compromise operational security. The human behind Krilzax stepped forward slightly. Hi there, Lieutenant Jack Murphy, United States Army. Your buddy here has something important to tell you, and I suggest you listen. Vextel bristled at the human's casual tone but nodded for Krilzax to continue, buying time for the security team to locate the signal. Krilzax took a deep breath. Commander, we have made a grave error in our intelligence assessment. The humans we have been fighting are not their primary military force. They are a single scouting unit that was separated from their main force. There was a moment of silence on the bridge. What? Vextel finally managed. The humans who defeated our patrols repelled the 6th Talon and captured me. They are 5 individuals who were lost during a training exercise. Another officer spoke up. That's impossible. Our casualties, the tactical failures, were caused by primitive weapons, improvised explosives, and what the humans call dumb luck. Krilzax continued miserably. Commander, their actual military is millions strong with nuclear capabilities and global reach. They are now fully alerted to our presence and mobilizing as we speak. Vextel stared at the screen, all 4 of his hands gripping the command console as the implications sank in. If what you're saying is true, sir, interrupted the sensor officer, genuine fear in her voice. We're detecting multiple launches from the planet's surface, primitive but powerful nuclear missiles approaching low orbit, and thousands of aircraft mobilizing globally. The human Murphy smiled pleasantly. Just thought you might want to know what you're really dealing with before things get out of hand. We're pretty reasonable folks, but we tend to get cranky when someone tries to invade our planet. Vextel felt his scales flush cold. In his 16 cycles of military service, he had never miscalculated so catastrophically. To the high command, failure was unacceptable, but walking into a full-scale war with a significantly more numerous enemy, that was worse than failure, it was stupidity. Security, location of the transmission, he barked. Rural area, North Central Territory of their United States, reported the security officer. But Commander, if what the lieutenant says is true, call an emergency war council, Vextel ordered, cutting off the officer. All ship commanders, immediately. Within minutes, the command holodeck was filled with the projections of 12 Zorn ship commanders, all looking various degrees of confused, annoyed, or concerned. This had better be important, Vextel growled. Fleet Master Gordznak, the highest-ranking officer present. Pulling commanders from battle stations for a meeting violates protocol. Vextel swallowed his pride, knowing that what he was about to say would likely end his career but might save the fleet. Honored commanders, I have received intelligence that requires immediate strategic reassessment. The human military is not as our initial scans indicated. He quickly explained the situation, watching as expressions shifted from skepticism to alarm. You mean to tell us, Fleet Master Gordznak said slowly, that all our casualties and tactical failures thus far have been caused by 5 humans using primitive technology? Yes, Fleet Master. And the actual Earth military is currently mobilizing its full force against us. Our sensors confirm it, Vextel admitted. Their nuclear weapons alone number in the thousands. One of the younger commanders let out a sound suspiciously like a whimper. This is unprecedented, said Commander Yextel, the fleet's most experienced tactician. If 5 of them could cause this much trouble, what will millions do? The holodeck erupted into panic debate, with suggestions ranging from immediate retreat to glassing the entire planet from orbit, a tactic that would certainly draw the attention of the Galactic Council and result in sanctions, if not outright war with other spacefaring civilizations. Fleet Master Gordznak silenced them with a raised hand. Commander Vextel, your failure to conduct proper reconnaissance has placed this fleet in jeopardy. However, your prompt notification of the true situation may have saved us from a greater disaster. Vextel bowed his head, accepting the public rebuke. What are your recommendations, Fleet Master? Asked Commander Yextel. Gordzmak's expression was grim. Strategic withdrawal is our only option. But we cannot allow word of this embarrassment to spread throughout the galactic community. The Zorn Armada does not retreat. What do you suggest, Fleet Master? Vextel asked. Diplomatic contact, Gordznak said, to everyone's surprise. We will claim this was merely a cultural exchange mission that encountered communication difficulties. We will withdraw with dignity, and no one need know of our miscalculation. On the view screen, Murphy's voice cut in. We can hear everything you're saying, you know. Your holographic technology basically projects into our room too. There was a moment of horrified silence as the assembled Zorn commanders realized the humans had been listening to their entire council. Well, Murphy continued cheerfully. We'd be happy to discuss diplomatic relations. Sounds a lot better than the alternative, doesn't it? Fleet Master Gordznak, veteran of 300 planetary conquests and the most decorated officer in the Zorn Armada, could only stare in mute horror at the grinning human on the screen. In the background, they could hear another human voice say, "Dude, are we seriously negotiating interplanetary peace from a storm cellar in Nebraska?" And a different voice answering, "Still better than that sexual harassment prevention PowerPoint." 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Jack Murphy found himself in a situation he'd never imagined possible, sitting in the White House Situation Room, explaining to the Joint Chiefs of Staff how his reconnaissance team had accidentally prevented alien invasion. "Let me get this straight," said General Hawkins, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You convinced an advanced alien armada that Earth was too dangerous to invade by setting booby traps like in Home Alone." Murphy cleared his throat. "That's a simplification, sir, but essentially correct." The president, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the briefing, finally spoke. "And now these Zorn are proposing a peace treaty." "Yes, Madam President. They're calling it a mutual non-aggression and cultural exchange agreement. Lieutenant Krilzax has been appointed their diplomatic envoy." The Secretary of Defense shuffled through his papers. "This raises significant security concerns. If word gets out that 5 soldiers with basic equipment held off an alien invasion force." "Actually, sir," Rodriguez interrupted, then quickly added, with respect, "I think that's exactly what we want getting out." All eyes turned to her. "Think about it," she continued. "To the galaxy at large, what's the story here? The mighty Zorn Armada, conquerors of 17 worlds, were defeated by what they thought was just a tiny fraction of Earth's military. A scout team." Cooper nodded. "Specialist Rodriguez is right. From a strategic perspective, this is the best possible outcome. The Zorn save face by claiming it was a diplomatic mission all along, and meanwhile, every other alien civilization out there now thinks humans are the scariest beings in the galaxy." The National Security Advisor looked thoughtful. "The ultimate deterrent. Not our nuclear arsenal or conventional forces, but the galaxy-wide reputation that humans are inexplicably dangerous." "Exactly," Murphy agreed. "The Zorn commanders were terrified by the idea that 5 of us could do that much damage. Imagine what they think millions would do." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, the president smiled. "Well, it seems we owe you and your team a debt of gratitude, Lieutenant Murphy. What was supposed to be a simple training exercise turned into first contact and an interstellar peace treaty. The question is, what do we do with you now?" Murphy exchanged glances with his team. "Ma'am, if I might make a suggestion." 6 months later, at a newly established facility in Nebraska, officially designated as Terrestrial Extraterrestrial Liaison Headquarters, but nicknamed Farm Silo 1, by those who knew the true story, Murphy stood waiting as the Zorn diplomatic shuttle touched down on the landing pad. "You know," Rodriguez said, adjusting her new dress uniform, "when you suggested we become Earth's first alien relations team, I thought you were joking. After what we went through, who better?" Murphy replied. "Besides, the aliens already know us. And fear us," Cooper added with a rare smile. Zhang shook her head. "Still can't believe they promoted all of us." "Captain Murphy does have a nice ring to it," Glitch said, fiddling with an alien communication device that had become standard equipment for the team. The shuttle door opened, revealing Lieutenant now diplomatic envoy, Krilzax, flanked by 2 Zorn assistants who couldn't quite hide their nervous fidgeting. "Captain Murphy," Krilzax greeted formally, extending his upper right arm. The High Command sends its regards, and looks forward to peaceful relations with Earth. Murphy shook the alien's hand, still finding the extra joints slightly disconcerting. Glad to hear it. How's Commander Vextol? Krilzax's antenna twitched, the Zorn equivalent of a wince. Reassigned to cartographic survey of the Outer Rim. A position of great importance. Sounds fascinating, Murphy said, managing to keep a straight face. As they walked toward the conference building, Krilzax lowered his voice. I should inform you that, despite our official stance that the Nebraska incident was a cultural misunderstanding, word has spread. What kind of word? Murphy asked, suddenly concerned. The kind that travels quickly among spacefaring species. 3 potential invasion forces have already diverted their courses away from your solar system. The Drog Collective, who have conquered 36 planets, actually altered their expansion trajectory to avoid coming within 100 light-years of Earth. Murphy blinked in surprise. Because of us. Because of what they believe about you, Krilzax corrected. The story has evolved in transmission. The current version circulating in galactic channels is that 5 human warriors, armed only with primitive tools, decimated an elite Zorn battalion and captured a command vessel. Cooper, who had been walking just behind them, snorted. We never even got on one of your ships. Facts are irrelevant to good propaganda. Krilzax replied. What matters is that Earth is now classified as approach with extreme caution in the Galactic Registry. Rodriguez grinned. So we're the galactic equivalent of a beware of dog sign. More like beware of inexplicably dangerous beings, who can defeat advanced technology with farm equipment. Krilzax said dryly. It's somewhat longer in Zorn, but the sentiment translates. As they reached the conference room doors, Murphy couldn't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. You know, 6 months ago, my biggest concern was not failing a land navigation exercise. And now you're responsible for interspecies diplomacy, Zhang added. Life comes at you fast, Glitch quipped. Krilzax tilted his head curiously. I do not understand that reference, but I sense it is apartment. Shall we proceed with the cultural exchange? Absolutely, Murphy replied. But fair warning, if you think our combat tactics were strange, wait until you try our food. As the doors opened to reveal the assembled diplomatic team and a table laden with Earth's various cuisines, Krilzax's antenna drooped slightly. These items are edible. Trust me, Murphy said, clapping the alien on his upper shoulder. Compared to fighting us, eating our food is the easy part. Across the galaxy, on a dozen different worlds, spacefaring civilizations were updating their interstellar charts. Earth, once classified as pre-FTL/primitive/low priority, now bore a new designation that would protect it more effectively than any fleet or weapon system could have. Warning inhabitants inexplicably dangerous. Standard conquest protocols ineffective. Diplomatic contact only. And in a distant corner of the Zorn Empire, cleaning waste extraction units on an uninhabited moon, former Commander Vextol had ample time to reflect on the importance of proper reconnaissance before invasion. The moral of the story was clear: in a galaxy full of advanced technology and powerful weapons, never underestimate 5 humans with nothing but luck, improvisation, and a storm cellar in Nebraska. Humanity had secured its reputation among the stars, not as conquerors or diplomats, but as the species you simply did not mess with. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they were the most unpredictable, resourceful, and downright confusing beings in the known universe. And honestly, they were pretty okay with that.